Kevin Zay. How do Scientologists interpret global events, such as the current COVID-19 epidemic we are going through? I imagine religious cults, such as Jehovah's Witnesses, are interpreting this as the start of the Great Tribulation, or whatever end-time event the particular cult believes in. Yeah, it's interesting. Scientology is not a doomsday cult as such, but it has this sort of dogmatic belief that through the writings of L. Ron Hubbard and what he wrote and what he said in his lectures, that there is a limited amount of time in which we have to get this job done. He talks about different factors. The fact that the planet's falling apart, the various governments are constantly in turmoil, and there are wars and degraded novels and the declining moral situation, and all these things that he would throw out there. In fact, I think in 1969 or 70 there was an issue where he talked about the oil crisis and how the world only had about 5 years, and then it was all going to go to hell, right? It was going to be over by 1975. Well, of course, the world didn't end in 1975 or 74, 76, or whatever year it was he was referring to when he said 5 years. But of course, the cognitive dissonance, and this kind of, studying doomsday cults is where the beginnings of the cognitive dissonance theory came from or was utilized. Anyway, when the world doesn't end after 5 years, then the cult gets to say, well, it was only because we were around, see, and we prevented it from happening. That's what would have happened if we hadn't been around, right? And just to be like super clear for those of you who haven't heard about this, for example, when you might think to yourself, my God, how could somebody have such a delusion? Well, this is the same group of people who thought that the Berlin Wall came down because OT8, the highest level of Scientology, had been released that same year. And so, OT8 comes out, people start auditing on OT8 and relieving the world of whatever, worldly stress it's under. And look at what happened. The Berlin Wall came down. I mean, Scientologists were serious about this. They really thought they were the ones who were responsible for that epic event, to have occurred. Economics, government, social factors, all of that didn't matter at all. It had nothing to do with it. It was just OT8, right? Okay, so anyway, you get this kind of, you certainly get these groups very full of themselves and very sure that they're the ones who are influencing, good. When something good happens in a societal sense, they were responsible. When something bad happens, getting back to your question, that means that they have to work that much harder and faster. That tends to be a kick in the ass for them. So COVID-19 is happening, right? The coronavirus. And this is just from a Scientology point of view. Well, there's a few different levels of this. One of them is on an individual level, are you PTS? Right? Are you connected to a suppressive of some kind? Do you have a suppressive influence in your life? And if you do, then you could potentially be more susceptible to getting this virus, and so you better get a PTS handling, right? And there's a little joke in Scientology when somebody almost has an accident but doesn't, there's a near miss or near hit, or I should say more accurately, or they almost have something bad happen to them, but they avert disaster. They laughingly will say, aha, PTS check, right? Oh, I'm not PTS because if I were, then this bad thing that almost happened to me would have happened. This is how they think. Okay, but it's also a joke too. So on an individual level, you'll have a bunch of Scientologists who will, depending on their point of view and their mental state, they will probably be saying that they're not going to have any issues or problems with the COVID virus or the coronavirus because they're not PTS. And their ethics are in, and they are Scientologists, and they are cause, right? So, they're gonna think happy thoughts, and this is very magical thinking is what this is. It's really, Scientologists are not any more or less immune to the COVID-19 simply because of who they are or what their beliefs are, but this is how people act. So in Scientology, they will definitely be thinking that they are probably going to be that they have an added level of protection or immunity because of who they are, their beliefs, or their OT powers. But at the same time, they're going to be wanting to make sure everybody's not PTS, right? Anyway, so that's kind of a way they will deal with that. But more from the group perspective, it's going to be more about getting in gear, getting in motion. Like, this is just another one of the signs of the apocalypse, so to speak, right? It's not like Scientology has a belief that there are 7 seals that have to be broken and then it's going to be, end times. But they look at every disaster, every huge disaster, at like 9/11, for example, was a big thing. When 9/11 went down, Miscavige actually wrote a 3-page issue that he sent down to all Scientologists called Wake Up Call. That's what the name of the issue was. And it was like, hey, wake up, man. Like, the world's going to hell and time for us to get busy, get moving, let's go. Join staff, give money, contribute more, get active, do something. And there were even, after a couple weeks, life gets back to normal because that's how we are. And there was so much teeth gnashing inside the church because I was in the Sea Org at the time that 9/11 went down. And I remember after a couple weeks when things had tapered off and everybody was kind of chilling back and getting back to normal, ED International, the executive director international, the French guy, for those of you who remember him, Guillaume Lessev, was frustratingly expressing, what the stats had gone down, and he was like, "What? Do we have to fly a plane into the Hollywood sign now to wake these people up? Like, what's going on?" Right? It was all those kind of frustration that people wouldn't wake up and stay woke, right? Because, life happens and people need to have their jobs and their lives and their kids have to go to school. I mean, normalcy and all of that has to happen. So of course things are going to get back to, some kind of normalcy, and these kinds of events are utilized by Scientology or other groups, and especially, of course, by the media, to drum up sales, drum up panic, raise anxiety and stress levels, to use fear-based marketing or fear-based tactics to get people to give over more money, more time, more dedication, etc. And it's obviously, as I just mentioned, this is not just Scientology, all groups who have a vested interest in people being afraid for whatever reason. Right? Because they want to sell you something, because they want you to click on their stuff, because they want you to join their group, because they want your time, they want your money, they want your energy. These groups will act like vampires that way, and they will use fear-mongering to accomplish their purposes. They're not above that. And Scientology is no different. So that's kind of where that's at. And I hope that was interesting to you.